Hey mamas, welcome to today's workout. Today we're going to be doing a second trimester deep core and pelvic floor workout. We're going to work on some mind-muscle connection techniques, some mobility exercises, and help you connect to your core and pelvic floor to keep things strong and healthy throughout your pregnancy. So let's go ahead and come to the floor. We're going to begin on hands and knees, but I'll show you some options if you don't want to be on your hands and knees. We're going to bring our hands under our shoulders and our knees under our hips. And we're going to begin with some deep diaphragmatic breathing. So what we're going to do is take a deep breath in, and as you breathe in, I want you to think expand laterally through your rib cage. If you can see, I'm expanding side to side through my ribs. So right here, you want to expand, not just through the belly, not just through your chest, but through your diaphragm. So you're moving laterally here and exhaling, drawing your belly button in toward your spine like you're picking up a blueberry from your pelvic floor, bracing lower, middle, upper abs, and then closing your ribs. So you breathe in. Get that lateral expansion, exhale, lower, mid, upper abs, and you can see my ribs are down and closed. So I'll show you here from the side, and you can also do this here. And you're gonna see some belly expansion with that breathing, but what you don't wanna see is this. That breathing here or breathing in through your chest. Now that's exaggerated, but you get the point. We want that lateral rib expansion. And if you don't want to be on your hands and knees, you could do this kneeling or standing. But what I don't want you to do is clench your glutes or clench anything. And if you're having trouble, you notice you're shifting forward or back here. What you can do if you do that while you breathe in or out, you can place your head to where it's pushing against the wall. That way you have nowhere to go. Okay, let's get a few more breaths in. So you're drawing that belly button in, closing the ribs, keeping the neck and shoulders relaxed. And I'm being pretty loud when I do those exhales, breathing out through pursed lips. And the inhale's pretty loud too because I have pregnancy, I have that like rhinitis thing going on. Anybody else? Okay, cat-cow. So we're gonna stay in this position. Now we're gonna work on some mobility here and just kind of loosening up the thoracic spine, which is really important for core function in pregnancy and postpartum. So let's inhale. We're just gently tilting the pelvis down, looking up, and we're not pushing out through the belly. We're just creating a little bit of space in that upper back. Now exhale, focus on that core engagement, just like we did with the breathing, pulling the belly button in toward the spine, drawing the pelvic floor in and up, and then creating a nice rounding of the spine. So we're letting that belly go, but we're not pushing out on the linea alba. A lot of people will say, well, I was told this is not safe. And it depends on how you're doing it. We're moving really gently. We are not putting pressure down on that pelvic floor. If you feel pressure down, then you can discontinue the exercise. But it's just creating some of that mobility on the thoracic spine, which gets really tight and tense. A lot of times we get into that forward head posture, that anterior pelvic tilt, and that helps kind of counteract that. We're going to work on that. Okay, we're moving on to our back now for a modified dead bug. Now, if you've been told it's not safe for you to lie on your back, skip this one. But for most of us, 1 minute on our back should be just fine. So we're gonna take that deep breath in, lateral rib expansion, deep breath out, engaging that pelvic floor deep core. Now, all we're gonna do, place your hands by your sides, is just pick up the feet just a little bit. And as you pick up the feet, I want you to notice what is happening in your core, in your trunk. So your hips, your upper back. Do you notice a lot of shifting of the weight? When you pick up a leg, do you shift more on one side? I want you to try to create as much stability as possible. Now you're not shoving your lower back into the ground, but I want you to try to keep that core braced so your lower back naturally gravitates toward the ground. Now I notice when I pick up this leg, I notice a little bit of a shift. Just something to be mindful of. Probably means there's some tension, some weakness on one side, and it's all good. Everybody's gonna have a little bit of that, and we're gonna work on that throughout pregnancy. Next, what we're gonna do is called a rib closure. So in a lot of pregnant women, we go into that anterior pelvic tilt and the ribs flare because that linea alba lengthens and stretches. So we're gonna take those arms over the shoulders. We're gonna focus on closing the ribs. Deep breath in, lateral expansion, and out, pelvic floor engagement. We're taking those arms overhead, just slowly. Just overhead. Now I want you to think when you're doing this, are you arching? Are you flaring your ribs? Try not to. Just above the floor and then exhale. Try to think about closing your ribs here. So you're bringing them back down. You're not forcing anything. Again, nice and gentle here. Inhale, try not to let those ribs flare. And this is really good stretch, again, for your shoulders, your upper back too. Exhale, just slowly bringing those arms back up. It's not an intense burn. None of these are gonna feel super intense burn on your abs, and that's not really what we're doing here. We're focusing on that deep core and pelvic floor. We don't wanna do a lot of front loading, sit-ups, crunches, or planks at this point in pregnancy. Now we're gonna place our hands under shoulders and knees under hips again into that position. Take a deep breath in, out. You get the point. We're doing that core engagement again. We're going to a modified bird dog. So we're going to reach the front arm and the back leg to the corner, fully extending, and then place it back down. Let's do that again. We're going to stay on this same side. So notice what happens when you move the arm and leg away from the body. Do you notice any sort of shifting forward or back? Another great time, if you want to avoid that, you could just do the leg and then place your head up against that wall so you're not shifting backwards or forwards when you're doing this exercise. You could also just do the arm, kind of break down the movement, and you could also make it smaller, just a little tap out, because the further you go, the more pressure that's going to be on your core. And I want you to pay attention to that pressure. Do you notice pressure down, or do you see it? If you're not using a mirror, I would highly recommend you use a mirror so you can see what's going on around this midline area. Do you notice doming, coning, pooching of the midline or lower abs? We're switching to the other side. And it's important to note that a little bit is going to be normal, and it is harder to see it in pregnancy. But I think the biggest thing is, do you feel pressure or straining? And do you notice, again, that coning or doming, especially around the belly button? If you have had a few kids, you might already notice your belly button's out. Mine has already popped out. I've got a little umbilical hernia too. So if you know you have an umbilical hernia, you know you've had diastasis before, this is your second or third pregnancy, or fourth, so on. Just something to be mindful of as you progress through these movements, noticing how you manage pressure. Does your core, when you place your hand on your abs here, does it feel tight, or does it feel kind of saggy in the middle, right? We want it to feel tight. We want it to feel engaged. And that's not a big deal. If it is saggy, it's going to happen. Some of that ab separation, that lengthening and stretching of the midline is going to happen. But we want to try to stay strong and avoid that as much as we can. Okay, bring your elbow under your shoulder and your hip in line with that elbow. We're going to come to a side plank hold. So you can start here with this bottom knee bent, with the knee forward and the leg extended. Now, what a lot of times happens in a side plank is maybe we rotate one way or the other. The chest might drop, the hips might open. We want to try to focus on keeping everything aligned, square to the front. Sometimes it helps if you flex your foot and point your toes forward and then reach your arm up. But again, you want to make sure you're not rotating your chest and your hips too much toward the ceiling. We want to be open, but again, not rotating. You're pressing through that arm and also lifting here, using those obliques, that deep core and pelvic floor, those deep core and pelvic floor muscles here to stay engaged, and we're just holding it. And side planks are really great because they're not going to put pressure down the midline and cause any sort of core dysfunction. It's a perfect exercise for pregnancy and postpartum. All right, let's do that on the other side. Use that breath to come up, and you're still breathing here. You're just not taking those deep breaths in and out here. You're staying engaged. And again, ribs are closed. We want to make sure we're not tilting the pelvis. Sometimes a little tuck of the pelvis under can kind of help us feel supported during pregnancy, because naturally, a lot of times we're going to be in that anterior pelvic tilt to support the growing belly as we progress through pregnancy. So a little tuck under the pelvis might help us feel a little more supported and stable and help us correct that anterior tilt. And that's important not just for exercise during pregnancy, in the second trimester and third trimester especially. It's going to be important for everyday life, because we only do exercise, 10 to 30 minutes a day, but how many other tasks do we do throughout the day where we're slouching or tilting our pelvis forward? We want to be mindful of that. Okay, we're going to our last exercise. Come with your hands under your shoulders. This one's going to be challenging, so I'll show you some options. Tuck your toes, deep breath in, out, engage that core, and then lift the knees. Just 1 second, 2 seconds, and then down. So just 1 or 2 seconds. I want you to do that again. Reset your breath. Inhale, exhale, lift. 1, 2. Maybe you could work up to 3 seconds, 5 seconds, what you feel comfortable with. But just like those other exercises in this position, I want you to push straight up. So you're not shifting forward or back. Your knees just come off the ground an inch or two. So really nice challenge for that pelvic floor, that deep core, the transverse abdominis. So important to keep working on our transverse abdominis engagement, again, to help us stay strong through pregnancy. But also, we're going to build that muscle memory so that when we deliver postpartum, our muscles will already know what to do. So we're mitigating that severe core dysfunction, and we're going to help come back quicker from core dysfunction like diastasis recti, etc. That inevitably is going to happen to most of us who make it to our due date or close to it. So I hope you enjoyed that. I gave a lot of instruction today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me in the comments. I do try to respond as best as I can to every single comment. And if you are pregnant and going through this with me, I have workouts on all my playlists for each trimester. So first, second, third trimester, and of course, postpartum. And I'm going to be taking you through my pregnancy where I'm at too. So I'm in my second trimester. All the workouts you're going to see are me pregnant or me just had a baby. So you know I'm going through it with you and can feel and experience everything you are. So let me know how you're feeling and what you're enjoying, maybe what's hard for you in pregnancy. I know even just showing up sometimes is hard. So good for you for even being here and prioritizing this movement. It is going to really pay off. And for deep core and pelvic floor work, I'd suggest if you can do it 3 to 5 times a week during pregnancy is really ideal. And again, it's not just about the workout, but how you apply those principles to outside the workout with your posture and everyday movement. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this workout. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and I'd love if you subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys back here for our next workout together.